it's running. There we go. Go around. Okay. And it wasn't talking to you. I was just saying okay, like I'm gonna start. I wasn't talking to you. Anyways. Hey everybody, since everybody seems to like this locomotive so much, this is Dogger's wife, obviously. Hi. And I'm here today to do one of what I intend to be several brief or not so brief lessons on the various locomotives that I have with my collection. I mean, you've already seen all his, so then okay, we're good. So, anyways, moving on. I'll discuss everybody's favorite for today, which is my Union Pacific G-Tail. Hope he's going okay. So let's start with the basic statistical information. This is what they call a gas turbine electric locomotive, or a G-Tail. It was built by General Electric in several stages. There was a prototype there, and then there was a first, second, and third generation. The one that you're looking at now, who's currently going around the track, was one of these. It was a single cab, second generation veranda type G-Tail. Its primary source of power is a GE 5-frame turbine, and it has a backup engine for pretty much for just puttering around in the yard more than anything, which is a Cummins 250 horsepower donkey engine, and I have no idea why it is called a donkey engine, but it is its name. It's a standard gauge and has 4 four-wheel trucks. These, in reality, were pretty big locomotives, measuring about 83 feet and 6.5 inches in length and weighing in at 849,212 pounds for the verandas, which is what this is, obviously. It uses an uncommon and at the time cheaper fuel, which is called bunker C heavy fuel oil, which in order to be usable must be heated to 200 degrees Fahrenheit, possibly more, which is why it has the fuel tender behind it, which heats up the oil, more or less. Long story short. This locomotive uses a GE 57E1 traction motor and reaches a total tractive effort of 212,312 pounds, and they can reach speeds of up to 65 miles per hour. And safety systems on these locomotives included twin Leslie I'm not sure how to say that properly. Typhoon A200 air horns. And then, what is it? Oh, wait. Uh-oh. There we go. Sorry. Apparently I lost the thing. Yeah. Long story short, that's the safety system. Its overall power output, in reality, would have been about 4,500 horsepower. Just on a turbine. So these are fairly big, bulky machines, which were made to use an uncommon and very uneconomical type of fuel. So why did they make them? I'm sure many people are probably wondering this at this point. So, well, these locomotives actually were intended to replace the big boy steam engines. Those were steam, I'm pretty sure. Anyways, at the time, the first prototypes came out in 1948, when the big boys were about to be retired. And overall, they were built to be long-distance, high-speed mainline freight haulers, and at one point they hauled about 10% of the railroad freight coming from Union Pacific. The actual gas turbine that we see now became a concept after attempts at using a steam turbine for the same kind of application failed to work for the job. Steam still has its mark in the gas turbine, however. Let's let him come around. Because that. I lost my place. Hang on. It still has its mark. Oh yeah. When UP added their tenders, which they did not originally include when they first were delivered to Union Pacific, they rebuilt the tenders from an FEF1 class freight for steam tender to fit the gas turbines. Oh, and I just kind of randomly threw this in here because I'm sure a lot of people didn't catch on, but the second generations are called verandas because they're the only generation of the gas turbine to have outside walkways. The other generations apparently were either insignificant enough or too big to have outside walkways, so they're the only generation that had them. And where are they now? They're no longer in service, obviously, but from 1963 to 1964, the majority of these locomotives, save for two of them, were gradually retired and pulled out of service. The locomotive in specific that I have, which is number 71, Veranda, was brought into service in August of 1954 and officially was retired in August of 1963. Some of the locomotives, including number 71, were disassembled and their track and bolster assemblies were reconditioned after retirement and used in the U-50s. The shells were scrapped. That part, I guess, they decided they didn't need. And of the 55 GTL locomotives built between 1948 with the first prototype and 1969 with the last third generation locomotives being retired, 53 of these locomotives were scrapped entirely, except for, of course, the truck and bolster assemblies. And the ones that were scrapped included all of the prototypes and the first generations and the verandas. And two of the third generations remain intact now. Number 18 is in Illinois, and it still has its turbine, but the turbine apparently seized up at some point. and it's missing its secondary engine and all but 2 of its traction motors. And number 26, which is located in Utah somewhere, I believe it's at a railroad museum in Utah somewhere. I know it's in Utah. Anyways, which it has been stripped of all of its usable parts, and at this point there is no plans for bringing either of the remaining locomotives back into service, so they probably never will be run again or really restored. So, to sum things up, the story of the GTL is a pretty short one compared to some of the locomotives out there, but it's also a very interesting chapter, part of the chapter of experimental locomotives. Chapter in the book of it, the history of the experimental locomotives. Anyways, the downfall of these unique machines can be summed up to this simple fact that it had a bad fuel economy over time. Basically, long story short, when they found better uses for the type of fuel that these things used, it became more expensive and, in the long run, just not worth anybody's time anymore. Basically, a pretty sad end for a really cool machine. Let's bring him around. Anyways, I hope you guys found this video at least somewhat interesting, possibly useful. And I plan on the next installment of this to be about the PB unit, because that's the next one that I was able to find lots of information about. I forgot where my stop button was, there it is. So look forward to that when I get around to videoing that. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm sure I left something out. And thanks for watching.